Seattle.
Yeah.
Yes, Scratch from Seattle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk.
People in Seattle are cool. Pete Bernard was hanging out by the screaming trees.
That is the only thing that's cool about Seattle.
And he got sucked in by the black hole sun.
Oh, my God. Yeah, well, I think San Francisco or the Bay Area got sucked in by the black hole sun because it was 93 degrees.
Yikes.
Is that
How'd
crazy?
that happen?
I don't know. It's like, something that you guys are really familiar with nowadays, which is
That is uncomfortable.
whatever the hell the heat dome is.
It's never hot in San Francisco. That's wild.
Yeah. And so I was packed kind of warm.
Yeah.
And I get up there and I'm like sweating like a dog, it was horrible.
Yeah, usually SF is nice and crispy and windy. So
Yeah. This time of year.
What were you doing in San Francisco?
Well, I wasn't in San Francisco. I was in Menlo Park. And I was at that whole...
Unrelated to San Francisco.
yeah, it's not San Francisco.
Sorry.
Different climate.
Well, it's by the water. It's by the freaking water, right? The whole thing. So... No, I was at a new conference or a summit that Cadence Systems put together called Fem.AI. And the whole mission of it is to foster diversity, getting women more involved in tech and in particular AI, against this hypothesis that AI is going to be a revolution. But it ended up being a really human. It was good, man. I was surprised. I didn't know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? And the guests that they brought on were just amazing individuals. It was like, holy, it's like, what have I done with my life? It was like weird because they make you feel like crap, but then they instill you with this sense of wonder and just inspiration. It's like, okay, well, at least for my daughter, maybe not for my life, but
we're screwed.
Yeah, we're
hope for the future.
Funnel that energy from that event and chart your new path.
There you go.
There you go.
So basically, they think AI is revolution, but they're worried about a tech bro AI future.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, a testosterone-driven AI future. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the port workers are saying no to automation, so those guys,
yeah, that's true.
putting their foot down.
That's pretty interesting. In a strike, usually it's just about money or maybe pensions or other things like that. But I've never heard of them say no automation allowed.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
It's wild. What do you say to that? We were just talking about that, Leonard, how far behind we are on everything. And now, especially, I tagged you on a tweet. You got to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
It has some great video of the automation in China at the ports. And then these guys here are striking and saying no to automation. Meanwhile, this is going to greatly impact Americans right now. So I'm like, what do you do with that? I don't even know what direction they're going to take.
I heard this morning, I was listening to Fox Business, and they were talking to the head of the Port of LA because the West Coast doesn't have this problem.
Right.
And so they make more money, but they talk about they do automation, and they said the result is they're actually getting more jobs because they're getting greater throughput through Long Beach and stuff like that because of automation, and it's actually causing them to have more people.
Yeah, Port of Tacoma, same thing. There's actually, if people want to go online, there's an organization called Maritime Blue that a friend of mine runs, and Rob, those folks, Josh Berger, I think.
Yeah,
and, pretty cool if you want to learn about the maritime industry and all the tech going on there. But yeah, it's total. It's really it's got to happen. It's
well, we need those guys on the West Coast to meet up with the guys on the East Coast and Southern and give them a little bit of insight about what they're doing with automation and how it's changing things.
Well, change is scary, especially if you're trying to instill change in something that's been the same way for a really long time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. China, the application of all these leading edge technologies in China is absolutely frightening. And this is why Rob, you know this really well. I mean, Ericsson, when they saw what the Swedish government was going to do with Huawei sanctions, they were faced with this dilemma of being literally kicked out of China. China market. They freaked out because that's where all the use cases are. Yeah. I mean, private networks, IoT, whether it's RedCap, whether it's NB-IoT, all these things that just don't seem possible anywhere else. China is friggin' making this stuff happen. But then that's just the connectivity side of stuff. Then you look at all the other things that they're being driven now to innovate on from silicon on up. It's actually pretty dangerous to be sitting on our butts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, that's why, I'm starting to say, don't diss on 5G. Yeah, it's disappointed because you had a bunch of marketers, peddle BS. But don't lose sight of the fact that this is going to be really important. And, don't get caught in the trough of disillusionment.
Yes.
It's an important thing to learn in big business, especially multinational corporations, is you really got to have your finger on the pulse of geopolitics because it does play a huge role in the success of your business. And I remember, I'm sure the, prime ministers, king and queen of Sweden freaking out when the Ericsson CEO Borje said, "We will leave Sweden if we have to." Because he was so concerned with losing the China market. But it's like, how could that ever happen?
Right. Yeah, there's this term called tech diplomacy, which I really like. And I think it's like every tech company now needs some sort of kind of diplomacy strategy, and geopolitical strategy. I mean, even just from the obvious supply chain implications, selling in, getting supplies out, talent, IP. It's such an important part. There's an organization called the KARAOKE Institute of Tech Diplomacy that I started working with last year, which is pretty cool. I don't know, Rob, do you know those guys?
I don't.
They're out of Purdue. They're actually based at Purdue University, and they do all this. It's a lot of diplomats, frankly, and Washington, D.C. folks, but they try to find the intersection of technology and diplomacy and do like educational courses and other things like that. So I think they got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. So if people want to kind of dig into that, I think it's a really cool space because it's like this merging of the geopolitics and the tech. And like as a tech company, you need to be thinking about that. You need a strategy there. So.
Well, and if you're thinking about different regions of the world too, the way the regions of the world fund technology is so different.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand the sources of the funding and how the money's flowing and how they're investing and how we invest at the Fed, state, and local level very differently, like those are such impactful things as to why some of those reasons of why we are slow in the States is because of the way we fund and the way we build out infrastructure. Whereas in China, it's definitely government mandated and controlled. And there's different things from a money perspective of how that flow impacts their innovation. So what can you do differently when you don't have the funding coming down the same way? So,
kind of a related topic. I was talking to someone the other day from Abu Dhabi, and they're working on this new LLM called the Falcon, which is a small language model. I don't know if you've heard of it. The TII, I think, it's a university out there.
G24 stuff or 42 stuff, G42.
Yeah, I think so. It's like it's designed to run on edge equipment. Basically, it's an LLM for edge equipment. And
okay, that's different.
What they were saying was that there's this the term is called sovereign AI. So it's like every country, every nation needs to build out their own AI muscle because they don't want to be dependent on Redmond here up the street or AWS across the water for all of their AI models and all their AI services. So like every country is funding universities to build out expertise in AI models, especially generative AI. So they have their own sort of, it's almost like what was the way back in the day when the clouds were starting, it's like sovereign clouds, right? It's like, well, you got to keep all the German data in Germany. So we need to stand up our own data center with its own thing. It's like sovereign AI has now become a thing where it's like each country needs to have some control over the models and the AI infrastructure, so they're not being
so aside from the commercial side, it's the universities as well as the government entities that realize they're going to lose control if they're not playing in the game themselves and developing their own models.
Yeah, so that's fascinating.
I mean that's the thing that NVIDIA, or especially Jensen, has been evangelizing across the world, right? But we'll see how long that
as long as you buy the NVIDIA chips, make sure you buy some of our chips and then make your own models.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, I mean, Jensen's probably, actually Jensen is thinking about 2-3 steps ahead of any Wall Street analyst or any analyst, quite honestly, because I've been I've been focusing on the fact that what everyone's going nuts over in terms of the market opportunity is generative AI supercomputing. And so if you listen to the podcast I did with Dylan Patel, I was kind of leading him, stringing him along with the questions, but he said this thing which was really hilarious, and I was surprised when he arrived at it. He said that nobody makes money off of supercomputing. Most of this stuff is funded by governments because it's a loss leader. There's no money in it. Monetization of any outcome of supercomputing is oftentimes really, really small compared to what all these folks are talking about in terms of a AI revolution TAM. And you got to hand it to Jensen. This is a brilliant way of just creating a massive TAM for AI supercomputing. But the thing is the end market value might actually be really, really small. And a lot of this stuff might just not end up going anywhere because it might not be economically viable to train your own massive national model. It probably doesn't make any sense, because if you have a good foundational model that is minimally biased, that might be good enough. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to invest gajillions of dollars and do all this ridiculous crap with data center build outs to get whatever value that you might anticipate out of a large language model. So
and you have to wonder with a lot of the endpoint devices is when we think about Gen AI or just even large language model, is it really that? Is it more of a feature or is it a monetization? And I was like, at this point in time, we already know that we want this to be part of a lot of the apps that we're using, part of the software that we're using, a part of the endpoint devices that we're using. But are we paying for it? Is it a feature? Is it a nice to have? Is it something that businesses are going to pay for on the back end for operations or for the front end for customer relationship management? I think there's a lot to be worked out there, but I'm so... At this point in time, I just don't see the monetization channels opening up. I don't know. I just feel very skeptical, just like I was with some of the 5G use cases, very skeptical.
Or the conversational, AI, smart speakers and that nonsense. Remember that? Everyone was nuts over that. And this is what we have to remember, but our attention spans are so short now.
We are very myopic in our views, and as well as our the things that we're getting excited about. We're moving on to the next thing really quickly.
It's like what we said in the previous episode, Rob. It's like attention is everything, and we're giving it to AI because that's what made ChatGPT possible, right?
Yeah.
But then human attention span is getting shorter and shorter. And I had somebody rebut that on our YouTube channel and says, well, you don't have a gajillion followers because, and it's BS that you're making an excuse about people's attention span. It's like, well, no, really, it is short. Visual, like video, it's 15 freaking seconds. You can argue that all day long, but then why are Facebook and YouTube, Google freaking over TikTok. And most of the
everything is gone. Everything is moved to shorts. We have we are an instant we're in an instant economy. We want it really quickly, really short and succinct bites. None of us can sit down and do one thing at a time. Literally, like right now that we're doing this, we're staying focused. But let's just face it, if you have a little bit of space in your head and you're kind of like bored, you'll grab your phone and start looking at something while you're doing something else.
All of our listeners have already left for the show. I mean, we're done.
Look at Rob. We cannot
just make the show 5 minutes long
at a time. We can't. It's like, what else do I have to put in, I will feed an audio. I'll be listening to an audio book while having the TV on mute and on my computer and looking at my smartphone. It's just insanity when I start to think about it.
Yeah. You're multi-threaded.
Yeah. You're actually
multi-threaded.
It's like core. Yeah.
I'm living in a shorts world and,
well, but this is so true. I mean, you're right. Obviously TikTok is short videos. It's working. It led YouTube to go, better come up with YouTube shorts because short videos on TikTok work. It all goes back to the genesis of the whole thing. Vine.
Remember
Does
that?
Anybody remember Vine?
I remember the name, but not what it was.
That was the Twitter video thing. It was like videos for Twitter. It was like short videos.
Well, Twitter acquired Vine. Vine was so popular. It was either 6 or 7 second videos, and you never would have thought that would have been popular. People got so creative to pack so much stuff in just a few seconds. It was a hit. In fact, my original thesis, remember how I talked about how we're all going to plug everyone into the Matrix, but we need something to entertain them. I used to think that Vine was going to be the answer to that. Just, the little cardboard Samsung goggles.
Yeah.
And just play Vine videos continuously with a slow IV drip to keep them alive. And I think we're golden. Yikes. But, Twitter bought Vine and then just kind of killed it.
Then they killed it. They shut it down.
But think about like you as a user, Instagram has Reels, TikTok has their TikTok videos, and then you got YouTube Shorts, and there's all the other platforms have there. We are pushing and swiping so fast, and it's getting faster. We have a very short attention span, and I think that's going to get worse. We went from there's a 10-second limit on whatever it is, right? Every video has a different limit on what they're allowing folks to upload or video, but that I feel like that is getting shorter and shorter. And so will AI get to the point where we're starting to feed stuff and it's just not even
that's one of the magic of TikTok is that you don't have to choose what you want to watch. It tells you this is what you want to watch, and it just finds things for you and algorithmically.
I haven't tried it yet, so
I mean, it's like a mix. If you looked at a couple of religious videos, it might start putting a little bit of that in your feed, and then maybe some cat videos, and then politics. There's a lot of politics in TikTok.
Always cat videos in there.
But then they will always feed the most popular. They will always feed you that.
Yeah.
So
I already told you guys about the chili dog thing, right? When I was in Houston last time. Okay. Wow. All right. I went viral on TikTok.
Now, is this story longer than 30 seconds, Rob?
Yes, I know about that, yes.
I went viral on TikTok. I never expected it. Sometimes you go viral, it's not because because we're all trying so hard to go viral with our content, and it never happens. And then you do something ridiculous, and it's like, boom. All right.
Yeah.
So, in Houston, all the way back to the 1930s or 40s, they had this local chain of chili dog restaurants called James Coney Island. And it's been around forever, and it used to be really small, and you'd be like the school kind of desks that sit like this, Anyway, it's dying. There's only a handful of them left. New ownership, all this kind of stuff. And so anyway, a friend of mine and I went to one of the few that are left because we love it. And at the end, I tell my friends, all right, I'm going to do something really ridiculous. So if you want to walk away, go ahead. And so I walk up to the menus, like digital menu on the wall with my phone, and I start recording, and they have so many items on the menu. And so I was like, hi, I'm the new owner of James Coney Island Chili Dogs, and here's what we're going to do to turn this restaurant around. And I started pointing at all these extraneous deals like gone, cheeseburgers, gone, Chicago dog, gone, whatever. It was like, just keep it simple, like In-N-Out Burger, right? We just make burgers. Do you want 1 or 2 patties?
Yeah.
So I do this whole thing, and I post it with some tags like Houston restaurants, whatever. I have over 55,000 views, and just people are going crazy. and I was like, oh my God, there's so much love for this place, apparently. And it was nuts. And I couldn't believe the comments.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I found product market fit for a chili
They
dog
believed
restaurant.
you. They totally believed you.
They totally believed me. But then I had started people going, man, you better be careful. Someone might sue you or something.
You put a little disclaimer on there. I do not own.
Yeah.
Coney
It's like,
Island.
yeah. And I was like, and you're right. Your ability to edit a TikTok video or content expires shortly, and then you can't do anything with it.
Right.
And delete it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went nuts, and I had like hundreds and thousands of people commenting and saying, "Oh, make sure you hear, so you learn weird things." Like everybody wanted to keep Delaware Punch. Didn't see that coming. Make sure don't get rid of the Delaware Punch. I'm like, okay, Delaware Punch, we're gonna keep
They
it.
could probably use your feed as market research
Yeah, I
now.
was going to say you can now be a consultant for the chili dog place.
You're right, because the actual owners have insane amount of feedback from people who actually love the place and want it to survive. Yeah.
All right.
And so
That's your side hustle now.
It's my side hustle. I'm a
chili dog
consultant to restaurants. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but I said I'm going to do this just like Steve Jobs did in the video. I was like, just when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, remember what he did? He's like killing all the products. He's like, how many products do we have? SKUs, like 100 and something. Remember he narrowed it down to 4. He's like,
simplify.
make the Mac. We do, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple,
There you
stupid.
go. That was your
There
moment.
you go.
Yeah.
Learning lessons from my
The KISS
mentor,
method.
Larry Ellison.
Larry is a smart guy too. I think he was thinking way ahead of all the cloud guys.
Have you noticed? Did you see the news that he's like number 2 now, richest guy in the world overnight? Like there was so much. There was so much hype and excitement around the OCI conference a few weeks ago in Vegas, and they're way distant last place in the cloud right now.
Right.
But whatever they did, and this 80-year-old guy who's like all jacked up wearing super tight polo shirts and everything, and they're like, wow.
Dude, you know what? He's Khan. He's like Khan in Star Trek.
Khan, that's right. He is.
That's right.
Ricardo Montalban.
Give me Genesis, Kirk.
He's
Y'all
the
are such
Hooli. He's the
nerds.
real life Hooli guy.
The real life Hooli guy. Exactly. Yes. But best friends with Steve Jobs back in the day,
Yeah, they loved each other. It was like weird. And they have very different values and philosophies, but I guess they
Hey,
I don't know if Larry will listen to anyone.
doesn't need to.
Yeah. But he gave a lot of advice apparently to Steve, and but I mean, Larry's not a dummy, and I never thought. I always thought his approach toward EOS, right, whether you want to call it cloud or not, was smart for his business, right? Because he's just going off of, hey, people still want to license our software. We will license it and let someone else deliver on top of it. And we're just going to take all the high margin stuff.
Yeah.
And if you thought you knew all the people who hated Microsoft, Larry Ellison was like at the top of the list. He hated Microsoft.
You need to start creating that list, Rob.
He despised. I remember everybody saw the documentary back in the 90s, Triumph of the Nerds, that was based on accidental empires. And the scene when they go to his house in Atherton, he's got, he's totally into Japanese culture and all that kind of stuff. And so he's got 2, Shogun warrior guys right when you walk in his door. And he's like, this is to protect me from Microsoft employees.
Crazy.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they even let you into OCI.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, but what
Background
happened?
check.
What happened? He did the unthinkable. He went to Redmond for the first time of his life and met with Satya and made a deal to plop a subset of OCI in their database inside Azure data centers. And then they did it with Google. And then the big announcement a few weeks ago was AWS. So sometimes you have to kind of swallow your pride to get bigger. Maybe there's a lesson here. Maybe we're figuring out some business thing right now.
Sometimes you need to go left before you go forward,
Frenemies. Lots of frenemies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there was a lot, people were like, hell freezes over. You see our Futurum people. Oh my God. I can't believe he's on stage with AWS, But sometimes you have to do that to get bigger.
Rob, that almost sounded like your WrestleMania voice.
From way back when.
And by the way, you're going to miss, because we're going to be in Austin next week, everybody that's on here except for you, but Aaron is going to be there. So y'all could have had a total smackdown there.
Yeah, next week, Embedded World Austin, right? Embedded World North America.
God, I've never met Aaron in person.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He's. I just found out today. They emailed me that they're going to be up there, and so he'll be running around. He'll be at IoT Stars too.
IoT Stars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know what, though? Just tell Aaron something he already knows. The short haircut is not working at all.
Yeah.
I know. I like his longer hair. It just looks like a different person.
He looks like a different person. He's going back to long hair. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like he doesn't know what to do with the short hair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's doing all these like.
Well, Rob, yours is kind of short. Yours is shorter right now, Rob.
I admit I screwed up big time.
Yeah.
He did. He went in for the corporate haircut. He got the corporate haircut.
Yeah.
And this is the longest my hair has been. It's like.
And it looks fabulous.
Awesome.
I need a haircut. I'm getting it done tomorrow, but I won't cut. I'll just maybe cut 1 inch off. That's it.
1 inch. That's all you get. Just one. Yeah.
Hey, as long as you can still grow it.
She looks like she's in her 20s. Quite honestly,
she is in her 20s.
Oh, guess what? Next month I turn the big 50, having a big party.
Oh, gosh,
no, don't say that. You're taking the same longevity juice that Larry Ellison's taking, aren't you? No.
Except I'm not getting pumped up at all.
Oh my
Pump you up. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Look at those guns.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh my gosh. So what's going on in tech news this week? Anything exciting?
Tech news this week.
Last week. Anything?
Yeah, AI is passe. It's all about drones.
Drones.
It's the future. It's just not in the market people thought it would make a revolution in. So
yeah, I saw that the Cerebus IPO is interesting. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
Is that the automotive? Wait.
Did I say it wrong? Cerebus? What's how you say it?
No, that's a different one.
Cerebus.
Tell us.
They are a AI chip. They're more like they're much more similar to NVIDIA than most people don't even know who Cerebus is, but they build generative AI supercomputing data center systems.
Racks of stuff.
And their approach, and we actually covered this. I brought this up about 1.5 years ago, where when I was over at Semicon West, they make this like friggin' wafer scale AI accelerator, and so we're like a Blackwell GPU is like 2 small dies stitched together. These guys are basically using the entire wafer.
One big chip.
One gigantic chip. Actually, it's square, but
optimized for generative AI workloads.
Yeah,
right. It's optimized
AI.
It's not a GPU. It's not a GPU. It's different.
No, it's not a GPU. It's their own custom accelerator. But they're taking this architecture, right, this chip architecture, and then scaling it out into these really massive supercomputing machines. So you mentioned, what's that group that? I can't remember anything. Anyways, it's very popular in the Middle East right now, where you have a bunch of oil money getting dumped into building out all these generative AI supercomputing data centers around the world, right? And these guys are going to IPO, and they're going to be a direct challenge to NVIDIA.
Yeah,
and it could be pretty disruptive. Because we have to think about it this way: AI training, this generative AI, massive LLM, and mixture of expert training is actually pretty specific. You don't have a crap ton of people doing this stuff because it's so expensive, right? These guys have a system, an entire database, a data center system that is optimized for AI training.
Yeah.
So
that's the key, is like, because training is cost and inferencing is revenue. So, the ability to do training in a much more cost effective way is going to be one of the biggest, factors in the success of the, at least on large AI business. So if these guys can have a better mousetrap to do that and are really more focused, that's what we see. Like semiconductors are now getting, we started with general GPUs, and then we got CPUs, then we got GPUs, then we got NPUs. Now we're like, oh, well, this is like a transformer architecture based chip. Like it's not even a GPU. Now we're like super specific, and that's only because the training on these things is super expensive. And so we're going to see silicon probably get optimized for model architectures. Who knows? Maybe OpenAI will get into the silicon business and make their own chips for their own models. I don't know, but I think it's really interesting to see, like, going back to the sovereign AI comment. So now, like you said, different countries are like, hey, I don't want to take a complete dependency on like kind of Azure NVIDIA or AWS NVIDIA. I want to do a Cerebus or Cerebus data center in my country, and I will fund it. And I think, to Stephanie's point, maybe it's not a moneymaker, but it's at least providing more mitigation of risk for IP. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, will Anthropic and OpenAI like support these new chip architectures with their models, and who's going to do that and all that stuff. So,
well, it also kind of changes the hyperscaler game a bit, right? Because this architecture is very, very different from what NVIDIA is even bringing to the table, and none of the hyperscalers have a wafer scale, chip, which would be the foundation for how you would design your data, your generative AI supercomputing racks and systems overall. Right. So
totally different architecture.
Yeah. And obviously there's efficiencies, right? Because you don't need to have as many interconnects, because everything is like friggin' on one die, right? Because one massive chip.
But of course, the downside is
crazy, man.
The downside is that, when you make chips these days on a big wafer, maybe one or two of them are not good, so you can chuck them and keep the rest. The problem is if you have one chip on one wafer, like if it's not good, then the whole chip is in the garbage. So your yield becomes like really dangerous.
No,
Pete, I think you should start a new podcast called Chip in the Garbage.
They get around that with software. Because you know what? Actually, there are almost 1 million cores on one Cerebus chip.
Okay.
1 million cores. So if there's a defective core...
Oh, they work around it?
They work around it. They just, with software, they route around it. That's no longer part of...
Interesting. Wow.
It's a dead core. And then so let's say there's 1 million cores, or 900,000 cores, maybe 70... or 80, 850,000 of the cores are good. That's how they get around. I mean, it's pretty brilliant, right?
I guess the other part of this story with Cerebus, we should figure out how to say it, is it's about execution too. So you got this great, architecture, and you're doing all this stuff, and you're making your racks, and you're pouring cement. But I know, like, from the inside of NVIDIA and Microsoft and folks, like, running these data centers, the software, the execution, the operation, the 24/7 nature of these systems, it's really hard to execute at like 99, like 5 nines or whatever the quality is needed. So it'll be interesting to see when these guys actually deploy, like, how stable and reliable are these new clouds with new architectures for businesses, right? Well, like, will Chevron bet on the Cerebus data center for their operations? I don't know. We'll see. I'm just making that up. I don't know.
I think it's a good thing to make up. Kind of like when he's talking about 900,000, and then one goes, made me think about dead pixels on a screen. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
Which takes us back to Stephanie. It's like, I'm like multitasking right now. This conversation is like, whatever, Oh my God.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
So we mentioned G42, right? Out of Dubai. That's probably what you were talking about, Pete. And so the supercomputer is the Condor Galaxy 3. And they're building these massive data centers in 3 regions. And it's supposedly going to be the largest AI supercomputer cluster of clusters in the world. So that's what we're looking at. And this is what these guys are involved with. And actually, on the inference side, it's Qualcomm. They're going to be using the AI 100 accelerator for that. And I'm not clear on the details because that was just an announcement, but how it's going to be implemented is going to be interesting. But they're partnering with Qualcomm for the inference side of all the stuff. So this is all like training capacity. But one of those chips is equivalent to, I think, around 30x, Blackwell chips, if not, Hopper GPUs.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's the design efficiency you get at the chip level with these wafer
these wafer things. Yeah. Yeah. The one I was talking about was the Technology Innovation Institute in Abu Dhabi, and they have something called the Falcon Mamba 7B. So that was which is a cool name, isn't it? Get Falcon Mamba together.
Falcon Mamba.
Yeah. So they are building out their own model architecture for I would call it a small language model relative to the big ones. But actually, and as a little pitch here. So we are hosting a 2-day generative AI on the Edge seminar, October 17th and 18th. So if you go to tinyml.org, you can register for free. We will actually have researchers from TII from Abu Dhabi there talking about the Falcon Mamba 7B.
Wow.
How they built it. Plus, we've got like a dozen other speakers over a couple of days, all talking about state of the art, about generative AI and transformer models and VLMs, and things are happening on Edge. So make sure you tune in for that, because there's going to be some really amazing speakers from academia, as well as some of the normal tech people. Like ARM is in there, and NXP and the usual suspects. But it's really cool to hear from some of these researchers about building out these new model architectures from academia. So yes, the Falcon Mamba 7B.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
I love that.
In Abu Dhabi. So
I love that.
Happen to be in Abu Dhabi, stop by to the Falcon Mamba store and get a hat or something. Or
let me just grab a quick flight.
Yeah.
Quick flight,
Pass through.
Sure.
Of course, I would love to go there. I've never been.
I think they're doing an AI conference in November, by the way. Although it happens to be on Thanksgiving Day, because they mentioned to me, they're like, "Oh, you should come over," and I'm like, "Oh, calendar conflict here with."
Ooh, wow. Maybe we'll take the whole family to Abu Dhabi and do Thanksgiving there.
There you go, Thanksgiving in Abu Dhabi, everybody.
Exactly.
I'm sure you can find
pilgrims.
Something to do there.
Yeah.
Speaking of travel, so yeah, Austin next week. Is everyone excited about this first Embedded World North America?
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
Kind of big for them. I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Nuremberg. They're transplanting Nuremberg into Austin, Texas. So
yeah,
I'm sure that'll fit perfectly. Yeah. Well, remember, folks, the Texas Hill Country was settled by Germans.
Yes, Fredericksburg, Texas.
That's the connection.
So that's the connection.
Dripping Springs, all of that.
When you see all those Sunday houses, all that kind of limestone stuff, that you'll go, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, all right. So there you go. Yeah, I'm going to be in Boston for an analyst summit thingy.
Boston, nice. I was just in Boston last week for like 4 days.
Really?
I literally have to fly all day on Monday for a one-day thing on Tuesday, and then fly home on Wednesday.
Yeah,
why don't you do the red eye? Just fly Monday night, get there Tuesday morning, fly back Tuesday night.
That's how it is.
Completely exhausted.
Yeah, I could do that. I'm not that smart. Good
I just got off the phone this morning with the Cable Telephony Association. They're having their New York event in November, and there's only like 5 of us analysts. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of a small group, but small. Yeah. I don't really get into the nuts and bolts on the content side, more on the B2B stuff, but they had some interesting, the MSOs kind of made a little list of things that they're interested in. And, they continue to keep their eyes on the carriers, like around fixed wireless and some other things, but Nothing out of the ordinary. Of course, they're looking at Gen AI and AI as well. And what does that really do to content and content delivery? B2B services as well.
Like Spotify has a DJ now, an AI DJ. I need a DJ for my Xfinity box or whatever. So it's
just
like,
tell me what I'm supposed to.
Why don't you watch this? And all that stuff. So.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, they do their best with looking at your content history and recommending things that they know that you've liked in the past. If you're a big drama person, they're gonna suggest that. But that's about as much as I've seen on their platforms.
Pretty basic machine learning stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real basic.
We've scraped your background and decided that you really love R. Kelly and P. Diddy, and we're going to make weird, bizarre recommendations based on that.
Isn't there? And there's like
Nice.
Diddy. There's Diddy like documentaries everywhere now. Like Hulu has one, Netflix has one. I'm like, what's happening here?
We've had these in the vault waiting.
Yeah, right.
As soon as the news hit, he got arrested. Everybody launches their Diddy documentary.
Oh my God! Wow. Are
you guys? I want to hear from you guys here in the States or here in Texas. I'm starting to see a lot of videos and pictures popping up from people that are starting to go to the stores and hoard. They're buying all the water and the food and the water, like in the milk and the bread.
Why?
And I'm like, what is going on?
Why are they doing that?
Because they saw the video of the guy who's in charge of the union for the longshoremen on the East Coast all the way to Texas. And it's on Twitter. He's on there. He goes, "I will cripple you." He's like talking about
that guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I was just seeing videos of like the local Costco's, like in San Antonio and Austin, and they're like the shelves are empty, and I'm like, should I be doing something? Like, what's happening?
Yeah. I have not seen that here, but I haven't. I was at Costco a week ago, but I didn't see anything. But
all right.
I ran to the grocery store last night and stocked up on Charmin Ultra.
Actually, I was in Safeway last night. I didn't see anything unusual, but now.
Okay, good. I'm like, well, these weird Texans. They're like,
no, but
to Seattle yet.
If you listen to this guy, obviously he's doing
scary
it for effect, but he's like, lumber won't come in, and so all the construction sites will go down, and those guys will get laid off, and then all the new cars won't be coming in, and so car dealership salesmen, they're all going to get laid off, and then all the whatever, he's just talking about how we're so which is a good discussion on taking dependencies on other countries or other whatevers, yeah, you're right. It was like a gloom and doom. It's like without the longshoremen, the whole country's going to. It's
a good negotiating position, but there is a huge. I forgot the name of the book. Maybe I'll look it up during the show. But there's a book about transportation and about the whole transportation infrastructure, cars, trucks, trains, and how everything moves so much around the world, shipping, cargo ships. It's fascinating, and the dependencies we have on truckers and the train systems to move stuff from ports to shelves is amazing.
Yeah,
I'm sure if this strike continues, we're going to find out real soon what commodities and what products that we're going to start having to live without because they're not coming into the so like into our ports.
I saw cat litter. We were out of cat litter at the local store. The particular brand that we used. They're like, yes, it's out until like October, and everyone was
they're hoarding cat litter.
Yeah, and I noticed that I can't get my pizza sauce at Trader Joe's, and I haven't been able to get it for months.
Oh my God!
So I was panicking.
Are you okay?
Oh, the travesty!
I'm gonna make it.
But you get your spicy pizza. It's the spicy pizza. It's your sauce that makes the difference.
But I heard on the news this morning related to the whole strike thing that like Novo Nordisk, European pharma folks were shipping lots of weight loss injections that are so popular in America. They're like, we'll be switching to air freight. People, obviously it's mostly Europe and that stuff coming into Atlantic ports, right? And so, in Middle East and things like that. And so they were already talking about it. It's like, okay, if you can, they'll switch to air freight. It'll cost more money than ships, but
Yeah, just jack the prices up. No big
Is
deal.
the Novartis, are they the Ozempic people? Is that the
I think they're
pharmaceutical?
Or is it Eli Lilly, one of them, is one of them.
I don't know.
Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, all those kind of guys,
Novartis is Swiss. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But meanwhile, where most of this stuff comes in, if you hadn't been keeping up with current events, it's actually most stuff comes from Asia to America. And that would be
Tacoma.
That would
LA,
be, as
Long
Dr.
Beach.
Dre would say, West Coast.
Yes, baby.
Exactly. None of that
Long Beach. That's a huge one.
Exactly. Long Beach, the biggest port
in the city they call Long Beach.
Exactly. City of Long Beach.
Well,
Long Beach and Compton are getting together.
Yeah. Well,
oh my goodness.
That might spur a movement toward automating, because these guys are intentionally, creating risk to the economy.
Mitigating risk, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the first strike I've ever heard the strikers just come right out and say, no more automation is allowed. That's part of the deal. Yeah. Who's going to agree to that?
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's like automotive
they said there's already there are already signs of everything being backed up already in the port. So they're just sitting there. And what happens to all those truckers that were meant to pick up those, those particular, where are they sitting? Are they even being dispatched? Are they just sitting around waiting for this?
It's a tough one. I think going back to I think, Leonard, you make that point about change. Inherently, we, as humans, don't like change, right? Because back when we were on the savannah and the caves and stuff, change usually meant something bad, like some sort of saber-toothed tiger was going to come and eat you. So
exactly.
I think we're programmed to, like, anytime there's change, we just kind of probably look at it pretty reluctantly. It's changing in an org, changing in our personal lives, it always creates stress. And so for a worker or someone who's been doing a career for a long time, these kinds of changes are really hard to kind of wrap their heads around. And so the first reaction is, okay, no change. That's the first reaction. And then it's like, okay, well, if there is change, then how does this change actually become accretive? And that can be really hard because sometimes there isn't a good answer. Sometimes.
And maybe instead of saying no automation, they come up with a plan that says, okay, for the jobs that are being displaced, what opens up next, or what training can we get
what is the
so we can start to manage
mitigation?
Yeah. But I mean, hopefully those conversations are being had because we don't want this to have to be a long strike.
Well, yeah, but the problem is there's always this promise of retraining or modernizing the workforce, and then that investment, I don't know, it doesn't
sometimes happen. Although there is a lot, I mean, there's been a big shift, for example, and like people are like a lot of new green energy jobs have happened that those jobs didn't exist a long time ago. The people were doing something else. And so there's hundreds of thousands of new green energy jobs that didn't exist maybe 5 years ago. So I don't know what those new jobs are for these workers per se. I'm not an expert. But
I would recommend the trades because you know what? Plumbers are so friggin' expensive.
Yeah, we definitely need more plumbers.
My God, these guys are charging $200, $300 an hour.
Leonard, did you clog your toilet up? What happened?
No, my tenant did.
What's the backstory?
They did some other.
Your tenant did? Do you have a bunch of Airbnbs? What's happening?
No. Hey, I am totally serious. You want to find opportunity. It's not in friggin' IoT or even this generative AI stuff, which is probably going to get completely diluted. Friggin' get into the trades.
Yeah, you're right.
I am serious. These guys are making a killing, and charging $300.
Well, my dad's in HVAC right now. HVAC, and he does commercial and residential.
And we're going to need more of that.
It's slow right now. Why is it slow? Because right now everyone is holding on to their money for replacing their HVAC system, replacing their electrical system, whatever it is. They're waiting to see what's happened with the election because people don't know where their money's going. And so right now, and I'm hearing that in the real estate market as well, they have the highest rate of offers being made and being rescinded in the United States than they have had. It's because there's so much uncertainty with money, the economy, that they're just waiting to see what happens with the election first.
We'll know in 40 days.
Then maybe they'll figure out what's going to happen next so they can make a decision.
Well, that's
possible that no matter what happens with the election, It probably won't make any difference.
It's the same.
Yeah, I know. Still with anxiety there.
It's having a irrelevant decision criteria.
Yeah.
But I think to Leonard's point, like getting stuff to work in the real world, which is what I sort of consider the trades, is like really valuable stuff. Like, yeah, we all have those stories, right? And it's I don't know if it's prime for disruption, but it's certainly an opportunity. Just making shit work in the real world is just super
literal.
Because we all work in the virtual world, right? We got like bits flowing and like prompts and the crap, and no one cares. But people that actually make stuff work in the real world is super
bits, crap, shit. It's all that's what
just
we're
like
talking
what
about.
we talked about in the past about the whole build submarines deal. They need 100,000 workers to help build submarines, on the East Coast, or apparently there's jobs all over the place, but either in Virginia or Connecticut. It's back to the trades. Do you know how to do welding? Go take a course on. In fact, a lot of these places will train you to be a welder.
Yeah. They'll give you the job once you're done with the training. Like that's what's happening, and that's the same thing that's happening with the pilots. They're like saying, okay, because my son's all in that market and industry, and he's like, they're actually saying, go ahead, we'll pay for your training, your commercial license, and we're going to already automatically offer you that job, Delta, American Airlines, Southwest, because it's the shortage problem. And I'm sure the same thing with the trades is there are companies that are willing to invest in those tradesmen to get their training because they need them and they're going to hire them.
Yeah, let's hear it for our fighter pilots. Military.
Yeah.
Saw those.
By the way, I was going to
videos.
say another job opportunity is apparently all the hyperscalers are going to start building their own nuclear power plants. So
yes, go nukes.
If you're in the nuclear power plant building business, I would say you got a great future ahead of you.
Nuclear engineers.
You can work at Microsoft, AWS, Google, and just build power plants. I think it sounds.
I love it. Who would have thought that it would take AI data centers to get people to go, okay, I guess we'll go back to nuclear power. Okay.
Yep.
Who knew?
What's going to happen is they'll have their own nuclear plants, and then
green initiatives.
You'll buy your electricity from AWS or Microsoft because they'll be running the power plants. So part of your M365 subscription is like
part of your M365
your power to your house.
I did watch.
You got to pay your power plant fee when you get your Office 365.
I know different people have mixed emotions about Bill Gates these days as opposed to maybe how they used to feel about him. But I did there's a new documentary on Netflix that he put on that's covering AI, but it talks about sustainability and everything. Really good, actually. Lots of good guests and stuff like that. The AI segment was unbelievably incredible. But the energy part and the sustainability because he wrote that book about stopping a climate crisis. And, it makes it really simple. Here's the pie chart. Generating electricity is this giant wedge of the pie chart, and it's electricity is generated by coal, natural gas, oil, that kind of thing. Buildings, transportation, that stuff we've talked about before in sustainability. And so, and obviously he's got TerraPower and Breakthrough Energy, and they're building a nuclear power plant in Wyoming.
Yeah,
and he's doing it in a place where they're going to be shutting down a coal plant. And the thinking was, let's swap those coal jobs for working at the nuclear power plant, which makes sense because you got to be thoughtful about people.
Just like Homer Simpson, you're right. There you go.
Yes.
Homer was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
He was.
There's so many fun things you can go back to that show and just laugh at the things that are happening today.
Well, I think there's something that's going to compete for energy that's probably more important than generative AI. And you know what that is? Air conditioning.
Plumbing. No,
it's not a joke. It's actually becoming a thing because the planet, certain regions are getting so extremely hot. Air conditioning is going to become essential where it wasn't before. You can, maybe sit underneath a tree or just go to a Starbucks with the rest of the community and do a communal cooling.
What you're saying is it's getting hot in here.
Yes.
Okay.
And everyone has to take off all their clothes eventually.
Yeah.
I know that was one thing that was always shocking to me. Speaking of that, is I was looking at these college forums and I just completely like was in shock because in Texas, we all have air conditionings, but then I started seeing the parents go, what am I going to do? My kids we're moving my kid in. There's no air conditioning in their dorms. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that in the Northeast. Not all of the college dorms actually have air conditioning.
Nope.
And so they're talking about this great fan everyone's buying and you got to get this. It's the only one that works. And so it made me realize, wow, I'm in my little Texas bubble. I just assume they have air conditioning in those dorms.
Yeah, well, we really need to get those. We need to get those dune suits working so everyone wears their own cooling suit.
Cooling suit. Exactly. That's genius.
Leonard, you need to pipe in the music. Where we had a lot of music references today, so you need to pipe in some of that.
Yeah. But
exactly.
Full circle, air conditioning, the trades, HVAC.
There you go.
HVAC, be an electrician, be a plumber, be a welder.
Invent a dune suit. Yeah.
Yes.
Swamp coolers, they're coming back.
Swamp coolers, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
Swamp coolers, make it don't call it a comeback.
Not a comeback.
There we go, more music reference.
Pretty soon this is going to be like a Rick Beato DJ kind of weird station. I know this is where we're headed. Pretty soon,
And you know what, Rob? I just saw a meme yesterday and it said, people that suffer from ADHD, they have a music reference for everything. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I have ADHD?
No, I guarantee you next week you're going to get on there and Pete's going to go, all right, today we're going to talk about what makes this song great. And he's going to talk about Smells Like Teen Spirit. And we're going to spend the whole hour breaking down different parts of the song and why people like it. And we won't know that anything has changed in our lives that we weren't talking about IoT. It'll be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Did we talk about IoT today?
You said it.
We just did it. Yeah, there you go.
Just did it.
Embedded world. See you there.
Machine learning.
Yes. Embedded world, you're going to have IoT stars. You're going to have
IoT stars. Be there, be square.
You're going to have Olivier Bloch doing his IoT show. So that's IoT-ish.
Yes. I'm going to be interviewing Nakul Dugal from Qualcomm in a fireside chat on October 9th. If people want to see that, talk about all things edge. And
I will be doing a recorded session with him that I'll produce and send out later. Also, I'll be doing a fireside chat with Blues.
Oh, good.
Blues Wireless.
Love Blues.
Very cool. Excellent.
We love our friends at Blues.
I apologize, but I need to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who's going to really quick?
Take us out.
Rob? Okay.
Yes, thanks so much for coming to IoT Coffee Talk. It was fabulous having you here. You know, the real story behind all this, aside from all this latest tech news and geopolitics and everything, is it's all about Elevate Our Kids. Please go to elevateourkids.org. Make a donation. We're closing that digital divide in the real way, getting kids laptops, connectivity so they can do homework from home without having to be at school. It's all good, and we're going to help them, and it's going to be great. And then they're going to get all this digital knowledge, and then they become plumbers.
Yeah.
See you next week.
There you go.
Tradesman. Peace out.
Take
all
care.
about the plumbers.
Peace out.